When a Secretary of Defense comes to Congress unable to explain his own budget, his own decisions, or the chaos inside his own department, that's not just mismanagement. That's a national security liability. And Chris Coons just laid it all out.
We are confronting a world more dangerous today than at any time since the Cold War. And our nation needs and deserves a strong and coordinated response to deter the threats we face, to protect our freedoms, and keep our citizens safe. The last several administrations correctly prioritized China. The People's Republic of China is the pacing threat to our nation's security. More recently, as the chairman just said, and as I strongly agree, China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea are increasingly aligned in ways that are making each of them more threatening to our national security. This is happening right now in Ukraine. Russia's aggression is buttressed by Iranian drones, North Korean soldiers, and Chinese components, technology, and funding. Ukraine's, though, not just a preview of geopolitics, it's also the future of warfare. And the pervasive electronic warfare and drone swarms we see on the front lines are lessons from which we must learn. We need to address the urgency of this moment, to unify our efforts, focus our precious time and money on what's important. Chairman McConnell and I are ready to do that with anyone interested in engaging in good faith, which is why it pains me to point out the obvious at this budget hearing, that in the face of these threats, the Department of Defense is more internally divided and beset by challenges of its own making than at any point in my memory. Let's start with the budget. Our Department of Defense and our troops are currently operating under a full-year continuing resolution for the very first time. The continuing resolution provides tens of billions of dollars less in purchasing power than under the previous administration. This does not deliver on peace through strength. No one on this subcommittee wanted this outcome. Mr. Secretary, we appealed to your office to timely and publicly oppose a CR as all previous secretaries had done. But you were silent. You never responded. That CR's cuts are forcing DOD to halt training and shrink exercises, and it fundamentally undermines readiness. DOD has made the CR worse by paying for DHS border activities with DOD funds meant for military quality of life. Money to repair buildings, to relocate military families, to keep the Navy's fleet operationally ready. Shrinking budgets will not speed up our acquisition system, complete kill chains, or deepen our magazines. We are falling behind, thanks to some poor choices. It should go without saying that the People's Republic of China does not operate under a continuing resolution. The fiscal year 2026 request is no better. If you go to DOD's fiscal year 2026 page right now, this is what you'll see. This is what is currently publicly available. And the budget request was not much better. We were given this on Monday. More than a month after OMB's press release, we are still waiting for real budget details. This is officially the latest budget submission of the modern era. For anyone not versed in how this should go, at this stage, we would have received at least this, if not reams more. This committee, to do its job, wants to work with you on the details of exactly which programs and exactly which deployments and exactly which end strength you are requesting, so that in a timely way, we can complete our work and avoid another disastrous continuing resolution. But the department has been AWOL in the 26 debate as it was in the 25 debate. Bills are already being written, and the department's inability to explain its budget is slowly making it less relevant to what it receives in fiscal year 26 in our appropriations process. What's clear is the base request is exactly the same funding level as the FY25 CR that's created problems. Mr. Secretary, you're requesting an increase instead through budget reconciliation, a partisan gamble that I believe shows poor judgment about how to handle our nation's security. DOD's ability to take care of our warfighters should not be contingent on whether Congress can pass a bill that also explodes the national debt, gives billionaires tax cuts, cuts access to health care, in short, is controversial and uncertain. I think it sends a bad message to the U.S. defense industry about the uncertainty of appropriations for key systems at precisely the time we want certainty and we want more from them. Who wins in all this? Not the American people, our adversaries. Mr. Secretary, I'm also concerned that far more of your time so far has been spent inside the building on culture wars rather than outside the building deterring real ones. This administration began by firing a long list of qualified uniformed leaders without cause. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs, the chief of naval operations, the vice chief of the Air Force, the head of the National Security Agency, the U.S. military representative to NATO, the director of the Defense Health Agency, the head of the Coast Guard, and all of the service judge advocates general. Continues to push out tens of thousands of civilians who should instead be repairing our ships, testing equipment, providing health care. It's rooting out fully qualified, combat-proven service members solely because they are transgender to satisfy a petty animus. And it's censoring service academy libraries so that no future leader of our military can read Maya Angelou or Janet Jacobs' book on the Holocaust. Even Jackie Robinson's World War II service photo is not safe from culture warriors. In January of this year, any patriotic American who met the qualifications could serve our nation, and the Marines at 29 Palms were training for the Indo-Pacific, not the streets of Los Angeles. We worried then about our enemies rather than each other, and we should return to that model. We also, frankly, need to get back to partnering with and supporting our allies. This administration has publicly and repeatedly threatened to seize the territory of NATO allies and retake the Panama Canal. The president paused aid to Ukraine, both intelligence partnership and military support, in the middle of their just war against one of our primary global enemies. And at times, rather than help and partner with our allies, we've levied massive tariffs against our partners. The department's fiscal year 26 request compounds these mistakes by explicitly eliminating assistance to Ukraine and slashing security cooperation with allies around the world, sending exactly the wrong signal. Our global network of strong allies is our asymmetric advantage. The administration's budget request may try to abandon our allies, but this Congress should not. I'll also cite a predecessor in your role, Secretary Mattis, who testified to Congress that we need to complement strong investments in defense with comparable investments in diplomacy and development. In fact, I think he once said famously, if we don't spend adequately on diplomacy and development, I will need more bullets because we will be in more wars. Yet DOGE has shredded our development work, shredding trust as well with partners and allies. Last, I'm troubled by the chaos and poor judgment that have been on full display from the Pentagon front office. Mr. Secretary, you should not have shared operational details of U.S. military strikes on signal with other executive branch officials or personal acquaintances. Mishandling important and sensitive military information in the middle of an operation by a secretary is unthinkable. You've also fired several top aides, and you've been unable to hire a new chief of staff for months. Mr. Secretary, this cannot continue. Your responsibilities to our troops and our nation are far too important. We cannot win the fight for the future without allies, nor deter China and Russia without a functional Department of Defense. And we on this committee simply cannot do our job without an adequate budget submission. I welcome partnership on these important priorities, and I look forward to discussing why we haven't been able to achieve that so far and where to go from here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
What Senator Chris Coons does in this hearing is rare. He takes a sprawling, complex crisis inside the Department of Defense and turns it into a stark, urgent warning. And that warning is simple. The United States faces its most dangerous global security environment since the Cold War. Yet, under Secretary Hegseth's leadership, the Pentagon is less prepared, less coordinated, and less effective than it has been in decades. This isn't about politics. Coons is speaking about readiness. He starts by grounding the discussion in reality. China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea are acting in ways that amplify one another, creating a global threat environment far more dangerous than any single adversary. Ukraine isn't just a distant battlefield, it's a preview of the future of warfare, where drones, electronic attacks, and rapid technological adaptation determine survival. The message is clear. The world is moving fast, and the Pentagon must keep up. Coons then addresses the heart of the issue. Under Hegseth, the Pentagon is falling behind. For the first time ever, the Department of Defense is operating under a full-year continuing resolution. This means using last year's numbers, priorities, and budget even as threats evolve. tens of billions in lost purchasing power, training paused, exercises scaled back, readiness undermined. And why? Because Hegseth failed to publicly oppose the CR, even after repeated requests. He said nothing while the department stagnated. Coons delivers another blow. The Pentagon worsened the problem by diverting funds meant for military families, infrastructure, housing, and fleet readiness to unrelated border activities. Money that should have repaired barracks, maintained ships, relocated families, and kept bases operational was shuffled away like spare change. Here, Coons' indictment lands hardest. China isn't operating under a continuing resolution. China isn't improvising its defense budget. China isn't pausing modernization for internal politics. Meanwhile, the United States, the supposed global leader, is frozen. Coons also highlights the Pentagon's FY26 budget submission, historically late. Congress cannot begin appropriations without it. By failing to provide basic budget details, Hegseth effectively sidelines the department from its own funding process, limiting Congress's ability to shape priorities. The pattern continues. Coons shows the department spending time on internal ideological battles rather than deterring adversaries, firing decorated military leaders without cause, purging civilians and service members over culture war litmus tests, censoring service academy libraries, and driving out talent instead of building capacity. The Pentagon is acting like a political battlefield rather than a defense institution. Alliances, the United States' greatest strength, are also suffering. Hegseth's tenure has strained partnerships, threatened NATO cohesion, paused support to Ukraine mid-conflict, imposed tariffs on allies, and submitted a budget that cuts security cooperation and ends aid to Ukraine. Coons warns that America's strength comes from alliances, and under this leadership, those alliances are being weakened. Finally, Coons addresses chaos within Hegseth's office, mismanagement, turnover, hiring failures, and operational lapses, including sending sensitive military information over signal during an active mission. This isn't a minor error. Mishandling operational data in real time can endanger lives. The message is stark. The Pentagon cannot deter China, confront Russia, protect the homeland, or maintain credibility if it is this disorganized, divided, and distracted. Congress cannot provide oversight if the department refuses to supply essential tools like a proper budget. This is not politics. It's stability, preparation, and national security. Coons delivers a clear warning. Under this leadership, the foundation of U.S. defense is cracking. Hearings like this matter because they reveal patterns, expose consequences, and show where accountability fails at the highest levels. If this breakdown helped you understand the stakes, share the video, subscribe to Liberal Lens, and leave your thoughts below. Conversations like this matter because they shape how the public understands power and how those in power are held accountable.